how did it all start? Well, I am, as you said, admitted to practice law both in California and in Germany. Most of my legal experience, most of my courtroom experience, rather, is in Germany. The last time I did something in California was in 2017. But my law firm is specialized in consumer protection and in the protection of small and medium-sized businesses, all of which goes usually against large global corporations such as VW, Deutsche Bank, and the world's largest shipping company. Nobody knows its name, but it's the largest shipping company, Kühne and Nagel. So from that point on, from March of 2020 on, when we were still, my wife and I were still in California, staying at our ranch, we, just like you, had very strange feelings about the pandemic as it was announced in March of 2020, and about the lockdowns, all these weird things that people were doing in Europe. We're getting these phone calls from our friends and relatives, and we just couldn't make any sense of it. I mean, I had more or less been in line with the government and the mainstream media up until then. I did have, and most of my colleagues at my firm, we used to be 17 lawyers, plus paralegals, IT, et cetera, 35 people. We, all of us, had very uneasy feelings about the German judiciary, because whenever we walked into a courtroom, and we're not dealing with landlord-tenant law or getting a divorce or something, but we were always representing small and medium-sized businesses and consumers against large corporations. So the feeling we got is that we're not just fighting the opposing counsel, but we're fighting the judges as well. Not in all cases, but in most cases. As it turns out, the German judiciary is not independent, not the way it should be independent. Many of them think they are, but they are not really. This is in particular true for the German district attorneys, for the prosecutors. And they're totally under control of politicians. That is why in 2017, I believe, the European Supreme Court announced that German prosecutors, German DAs, cannot issue, let alone enforce, international arrest warrants, because there's always a danger that some politician is behind this and pulling his or her strings. So, but it's also true for many judges, because most of these judges are the president of the courts where they work write personal assessments once a year. These presidents of the courts are part judges and part politicians. So that is the vicious circle that the German judiciary is victim to, has fallen victim to over not just the last decades, but this has been going on since Bismarck's time in the 1870s. In order to become a member of the judiciary, you had to be completely in line with politics. And that hasn't changed. That has not changed. The way it works is politicians in Germany are completely under control of the lobbyists of the large global corporations. And then these politicians, through the presidents of the courts, directly influence the judges. So if the judge gets an assessment, a personal evaluation that says that he should have been more careful about, for example, the fact that VW is the largest employer in the state of Lower Saxony, then that means that he's probably not going to go much further in his career. And that's a really big problem. This example shows you Lower Saxony owns, by the way, 20% of the shares in VW. So if the judge rules against Lower Saxony, against VW rather, he rules against his own employer. This is untenable. It should have been ended a long time ago, but it wasn't. Same story in Frankfurt. This is the headquarters of most of the German banks, in particular, the most fraudulent of them all, a Deutsche Bank. And of course, they're not going to rule against Deutsche Bank in that town.